All right. Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jordan, and I am one of the teaching artists here on Art Prof. And we're a website that is essentially meant for visual development and learning and understanding the visual arts. And we have lots of video tutorials. And one thing we want you to know is that our website is 100% free. We do critiques as well, and obviously live streams. So if that's something that interests you, continue to check out our website and our YouTube and all that fun stuff. Um, Today's art talk is going to be very interesting because we're going to go through my artwork from a couple of years ago. And uh, you guys are used to me, critiquing your work and going through all the things that I like from maybe others' films or whatever. But now it's time to go through my personal stuff, going through my personal portfolio from when I was accepted to art school in the year 2013. And so, yeah, we're going to all brace ourselves and go through this together, I guess. I haven't actually gone through this artwork in a long time, other than me finding the actual artwork. I had to snoop through my files and find all this stuff. But a lot of this stuff is just old for me, so I thought it actually would be fun to just go through it straight. I don't even have like really notes or anything. I'm just gonna give my own opinion and maybe some stories about what I was thinking at the time I created some of this stuff. Uh, yeah, if you guys have any questions about my work or thought process on any of it, just let me know, and I would be happy to answer. So yeah, let's see what we got. Okay, so this was a piece that I did in the summer of 2012, and this was something I did for the RISD pre-college program, and I think it was for my design class, and our project was basically to create a portrait, but we had to use gouache paint, and I think that was, or did we? I don't remember if we had to use gouache paint actually. Maybe it was just the only paint that I knew of. I didn't understand the difference between like acrylic and gouache. If I had known at the time, I probably would have just done acrylic because gouache is tough to paint with on something so big. Um, what I remember is this piece was probably like 11 by 14 inches, maybe something like that. And so it's pretty large. And painting, with a really small gouache brush is not that easy. And I also had some construction paper cut up into little pieces, and we had to take our own portrait photo. And this was probably one of the most successful things I did that year. I remember it being really well liked in the class. My teacher really liked it, and actually, my dad he actually put this on his business card. He used to cut hair, and he's a barber. And so I remember visiting him one time on a break from school, and I looked at his business card. I was like, "That looks familiar," and it was his way of showing appreciation for it, which I thought was really cool. So thank you, Dad. Um, but yeah, so this piece, if I were to redo this, I probably one would use a different medium altogether than gouache. But I do still like the colors. I probably would have, smoothed out that gradient if I could from the purple to the yellow. Um, and what's funny is at the time I don't even think I understood like complementary colors fully just yet. Like I might have heard of it, but I don't think I was planning it like that when I did this. But I think it came out pretty well overall. Um, I probably would have, fixed that little shape underneath the nose. Like ever since I did this, that's always bothered me. It's like a huge wart just sitting on the face, and it bugs me because it's a shape of light that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And so yeah, I probably would have, if I were to go do this again, I probably would fix that. Um, I, the forehead is a little messy for me right now as also. And I probably would have separated some of the construction paper shapes out a bit more because I think they're really cool when they show up, but in the portrait especially, they're a little too close together, and so I probably would have split it apart in the hair a little bit, in the shadow side of the face. So yeah, that's probably what I would have done. And also, if you guys have critiques from my 18-year-old self, then please, throw them in here. Obviously, I'm probably not going to fix this artwork. It's been, 6 years, and what's done is done, and I've already finished school, so, or at least my undergrad. So let's go on to the next one, see what we got here. Okay, so this is a figure drawing that I did. If I remember correctly, this was maybe 30 minutes or 50 minutes. It says at the top, but it was too small for me to read. And figure drawing was one of those things that I think helped me a lot when it came to applying for art school. And it's something that isn't offered at a lot of high schools, which is really unfortunate. But I had a teacher at the time who was really dedicated to making sure students got that education as early as possible. So when I was 15, I started taking figure drawing classes at school, and and every Monday and Wednesday I would stay. Everyone would get out of class at 3. I would stay till 5 every Monday and Wednesday for 3 years, just practicing my figure drawing. And it actually put me ahead of a lot of students. Even when I got to art school, there were plenty of people who were better than me at many things like painting. Some of them were even better at drawing other things. But when it came to the human figure, that was always a strong suit of mine. Now looking back, after I finished undergrad and going to grad school and stuff, I see that there were a lot of issues, a lot of things I still didn't understand with like proportion and different origin points of the muscles and how to make a figure stand up and have balance to them. Like there's certain concepts that I didn't fully get, but I do think that things like this really pushed me ahead. And again, if I were to do this again, I probably would have drawn the hands and the feet and the head. For whatever reason, I was scared to draw them at 17, 16 years old, however old I was when I did this. And I think, and I say this in other portfolios as well, I think it's really important to make sure you draw those things because they convey a lot of character. I did a whole art talk on hands and gesture that you can get just from that. And so if I were to go back and do this, I definitely would fix that. I would definitely, have drawn a face. Part of it was also because I felt that I could do it later because everyone knows what a face looks like, and I didn't have to worry about that. I drew the guidelines, so you know exactly what's there. But it's funny because I put all this rendering and I didn't even leave a face. And so yeah, I would totally do that differently now. But it is what it is. Let's see. Okay, here's another figure drawing I did. It's, I think, actually a lot better than the last one. At least I attempted to draw a face. But one thing that I struggled with was foreshortening. So you can see that leg on the bottom or on the far right is really kind of having some issues. It's that knee to thigh when it's bent like that has always been difficult for me because there's so many muscles overlapping each other, and to communicate it clearly and succinctly and it takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of thinking, and it's a challenge. It's still a challenge for me. So I would probably fix that. I definitely, fix the face. I think overall the head's actually probably too small. Now I think about it, I would probably, if I could just lasso it in Photoshop and just go, enlarge it by 10%, I would. And then obviously she's not even leaning on anything because half of her arm is gone. Just a rule of thumb, guys, for when you guys are doing figure drawing or anything like this or gesture drawing, I would say you always need to put in whatever the character is leaning on because that is so much of the story. There are times where I'll do figure drawings and let's say it's a minute long and I won't draw the arms because they're they're doing whatever. They're not really that important, but I always try and fit in the legs if I can because you stand on the legs. They're super important and the drawing is not going to look complete if you leave that out. And here, I didn't even have room for the feet. I cut the feet off just because I literally ran out of paper. Although now I probably would at least try and indicate it. But right now, I feel like the arm is probably more important because if you take away that arm, she's just going to fall straight over. Of course, my 18-year-old self didn't understand that at the time. So yeah. And I will also probably try and be more delicate with my line weight. That was something that my teacher always got on me about. was, your line weight is not strong enough. You're not showing the lighting direction when you draw, and so that was a huge challenge for me. Another figure drawing. This one, I think I wrote exactly 62 minutes. I don't know why it was 62 versus just an hour drawing. But this one I remember being very proud of. It was probably the most extreme foreshortening I had done. And, and I was doing the sighting thing. Like, you guys probably know, like, when you hold your pencil like this and you hold it at different angles. And, I was doing all that stuff. And it was one of the most successful in the class. I remember that very specifically. And, I actually still like this drawing a lot. And I think a lot of things are working for it. Again, I probably would vary up the way I am controlling my line. I probably wouldn't have combined the black charcoal with the red Conte crayon. I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but that to me just doesn't look good to me anymore. Maybe some other people can do it in a much more masterful way, but that's something I really wish I could fix. I might also, I'm trying to figure this out now, I might also take away some of the top portion of the composition because it's not really doing anything, or at least adding something, right? Like, I think it helps because it's a figure laying down and, she's looking up, but that empty space just kind of bugs me now. So, yeah, I probably would fix that, but, what are you going to do? This page was fun. These were, sorry, hope that Mike didn't catch that. These are 3-minute figure studies, and I remember being really proud, particularly of that bottom left one. Honestly, the others, the top right is actually not too bad, but the bottom right, something about the way the back was angling and getting that spine, that gesture, was really, really fun. And also, I liked the fact that we drew a model who had a different body type, who was a little more heavy set, because oftentimes when you're doing figure drawing, you will get the models that are very similar, and this is just a reality of it. A lot of models, obviously it's a very sensitive situation. It's very, I don't want to say uncomfortable, but it's what's the word? It'll come to me. But it's a place vulnerable. That's the word. It's a very vulnerable situation, and a lot of people, when they feel uncomfortable with how they look, will not be willing to go up and model. But this model was like, I'm going up there, and I really appreciated that because you don't see that very often. I've done figure drawing for at least 10 years now, 9-10 years now, and it's very rare. So the fact that I got to do that, and the fact that I created a drawing that I was proud of, I thought was really, really cool. And so I'm happy that I could put that in my portfolio. Again, I wish I didn't cut off the feet. I can draw feet much better now. Trust me, guys. It's way, way better. It's way different. Yeah. All right. Okay, so now we're switching on to something a little bit different. But, this might be a good way to segue into this. A lot of people ask, what should I put in my portfolio? I always say put a lot of variety in it, but as you can see with mine, I had a lot of figure drawings, and that was just something that, to be honest, I was very comfortable with, and I still am much more comfortable with it than I am with anything else. And I'm working on trying to change that, but I figured that because the human figure is one of those things that you can always continue to study, that it will, benefit me in the long run. So in this section, I did a bunch of hand studies, right? And if you look at the numbers very closely, it says like 815, 816, and basically this was a series of 1,000 hands I was doing when I was in high school. It took me a long time to finish. I don't even remember how long it took, but I knew that no one else was doing anything like this. Anytime I mentioned it, especially to other artists, they'd be like, dude, what are you doing? That's a lot. And I've tried to, if you guys have noticed, I try to implement that type of philosophy of just doing, quantity or a huge quantity of drawings into Art Prof. There's a tutorial called the Drawing Marathon, Human Anatomy. It's the same kind of thing. And there might not be this number of 1,000 on there, but when you really think about it, drawing more of something is only going to make you better. And that was instilled in me by a good friend and mentor of mine and teacher, um, who is a master artist. And he told me this when I was 13, 14 years old. Like, you have to do this a lot of times, and you're going to get it eventually. And so I put these drawings in my portfolio. And also because hands are so notoriously difficult to draw, I would say heads and then hands are the most difficult things to draw, like, in the world. Hands are difficult because they can do so many different things. Like, you can make up all these different shapes, and it's hard to get two hands that are exactly alike. And they can also show age and gender and their emotion. There's so many things, right? Heads, I think, are slightly more difficult just because we're more used to seeing them, and because we know when something's off, right? When you're having a conversation with somebody, when you go about your daily business, you're generally looking at people's faces. It's very rare that you're going to look at someone's feet during a conversation, unless you're like super shy and nervous, or a toddler or something. So, um, so when you see someone's face or a drawing of a face, and you see an eye that's pulled all the way over here, or a nose that's super skinny, or lips that are non-existent or whatever, it stands out a lot. So this was a way for me to kind of conquer my fear in a way. And I still have issues drawing hands, but it's just the name of the game. I can't not learn how to do it. So yeah, I did a couple pages of that. This I was really proud of as well. And by the way, these are like 10-minute drawings. They're nothing they're nothing really crazy special. Like, I feel like a lot of students can get hung up over how many drawings how detailed and how finished their drawings are. But I was like, forget that. I'm just gonna do a bunch of sketches. Like, why do I need everything to be a finished piece? That's just me. Finished pieces are nice, but I also know a lot of schools and even a lot of jobs, when you're applying for them, they like to see your thought process. They like to see sketchbook work. They like to see, things that aren't as finished, because they want to know how you think. They want to know how you practice. They want to know how you go about solving problems. And so by putting this in, it was just kind of like, hey, this might not be the coolest hand drawing in the world, but I guarantee you I'll know how to draw hands better than most other students who haven't practiced. So that was my thing. We have a comment here from IF, and it says, hi, smiley face. I think drawing people is always the hardest, so it's really good for that time. Also, the story about your father is beautiful. I like hands. Well, I'm glad you like my story. But yeah, it's incredibly difficult. The human figure is so complex that it's been a subject of interest for artists for literally hundreds of years, and even thousands of years if you really want to take it that far. And so and it's obviously it's the thing we're most comfortable with. It's the thing that we associate ourselves with, unless you're like a super isolated introvert. But even then, you still have to live in your own human body. So so there's that. But yeah. So if you guys are having issues drawing hands or feet or whatever it is, just go out and do it. Like, I was talking to a teacher of mine the other day, and we were discussing some of the issues I had drawing pretty much anything other than a character or a figure. And I was like, all right, well, what I'm going to do is I get out of school in a week, and my goals are to have, in the month off that I have for my winter break, I want to have a stack of drawings that are like vehicles and animals and props and just all these things that I don't draw as heavily as the human figure. And I guarantee you, in a month's time, I will be much stronger than I am now. Maybe I'll show those drawings. Maybe I'll post some of those drawings on the Patreon page. I'll talk about that later. But it's something. It's an attitude that I'm always trying to have, and it doesn't always work. I'm not always very patient. I'm not always very kind to myself in a lot of ways. But it's something that is, I'm a work in progress, just like everyone else, right? Let's see. Do I have another hands page? Yes, I have another hands page here. Just trying to do different stuff. Nothing super spectacular here, but they're hands. So what can I do? Okay, so this is some of the more conceptual stuff, and it's funny because I see this kind of stuff in other portfolios, and I don't know why I thought I was the most creative person in the world. I was like, yeah, when I draw, it's like magic and stuff comes out. I don't even know what this was supposed to be, but I played to my strengths. If you guys noticed, like, because at the time I was really really strong with hands, and so I was just like, yeah, let's just make these giant hands, and they're drawing, and it's like a comic panel of me doing my work. And I remember creating this and thinking that it was so cool. Um, Now I look at this, I wish I would have changed the whole concept because it's just kind of dull to me. Those little magic-y spiral things are not the most interesting shape in the world. It just looks like water. So I probably would have played with that. And also, I had an issue. And this is something that played in to my college years as well. I had an issue with understanding value. So if I look at this, it's very, very gray, right? You guys hear me all the time talking about increasing your value range, but the reason I do that and the reason I get on some of you guys is because that was something I really struggled with when I was 16, 17 years old, and I never pushed out. It was partially because I never used anything other than an HB pencil, and that was good and bad because HB pencils are pretty much what entertainment designers use. They will use like Cintiqs and digital software, but other than that, they'll just sketch with pencils, and they get everything done that way. Same with comic book artists. But when you're going to a more fine artsy kind of school, then they will often want to see you experimenting with different mediums. So it was a give and take sort of situation. And also you could see I was trying to be clever with like trying to overlap different panels and things like that. And it's funny me showing you all this now because it's kind of laughable to me at this point, and I would never create some of these anymore. But we're all growing. We're all trying to figure this art thing out. It's not easy. I wish it were, because then we would all be much further along. But we all have to, like I said before, we all have to start from somewhere. And I'm actually very happy with my artistic journey as it's been, for the most part. Definitely some low points, but definitely a lot of high points as well. This was a piece I remember doing right after I got home from RISD pre-college in the summer of 2012. I was 17 years old, and I remember just being so gung-ho on creating a nice portfolio and wanting to create a cool portrait. So I got this big old block, not block, but it was this big old like cardboard sheet, and it was like 3 feet by 4 feet. It was big, and I was like, I'm just gonna sit here and do a portrait of myself. So I grabbed a mirror from the bathroom and I propped it up, and I just drew myself for hours. And no one told me to do this. I just said I'm going to do it. And it came out pretty cool, actually. I still think it looks a decent amount like me. Uh, the things I wish, again, it's the value. Like, I totally used a different medium for my hair, and I don't know why I thought to do that. It just sticks out like a sore thumb right now. Whatever. The other thing is the way my head connects with the rest of the body, like just the neck and torso, the chest. It feels so awkward. Like there's a certain point at the chest where it kind of like curves and then it goes straight down. It's way off and it's bugging me. Like I almost want to go into Photoshop and fix it right now, but I'm not going to do that because I have other things I have to do. And it's just why, I could do a much better portrait now anyway. So yeah, I was pretty happy with this piece when I did it. I remember watching a lot of like Miyazaki movies and like anime while doing this at the time, and thankfully it didn't influence my work and like how I drew the eyes and stuff like that. But this was a pretty solid piece. I remember liking this one a lot, and my high school teachers really liked it too. So yeah. Okay, this was a study I did of a skull, obviously. I can't remember what type of skull it was. I don't even think I paid attention. I was just like, oh, cool skull, boom, draw it. And this is one of the first times I worked with actual ink pen, like a quill, you know, which I always wanted to use them, but I didn't understand how it would work. And I had a lot of issues. Like you can see there's clearly ink blotches like on the paper. And I tried that middle line that goes straight through was like a guideline. I was trying to do the horizon line. And you know, I was just trying to get used to the fact that you cannot let up on this. And you know, you have to be very confident in your line work. And that's something I actually need to practice more of now, just being more confident with my lines. Even though I like the way they look, I just need to create them faster, you know. And so yeah. Will you show that MJ pen you talked about once? Oh man, you know, I don't even have a slide for that. That was something that I did like years ago that I actually didn't even put in my portfolio. Um, I'll tell you what though. If I can, I'll link it in the description, and after this drawing, I'll tell you the story of why I couldn't put that in my portfolio. Okay, so if I forget, remind me. Um, but yeah, so that's what I was really trying to practice with this, trying to understand different planes and everything, just trying to use a different medium. And I think it actually really helped because I was able to do this page at the same exact time, and I was just focusing on drawing small stuff. Like I was so proud of that butterfly wing on the top right. You guys have no idea how proud I was of that. And some of these other things like insects I'd never done before, you know, different plant life, and I'm not even sure what that on the bottom left is. It's some sort of rock, but I don't remember like anything about it really. Um, but it was just me trying to experiment, just trying different things because I realized I had only human figure stuff, and I was like, well, maybe I need to draw some bones and you know things like that. So so yeah, uh, let's see here. We got two more images. Okay, this was a drawing. This was my equivalent of concept art as a 18-year-old. I didn't understand it at all. I understand it much more now. And I did this. It was literally a doodle in class. Like I don't even think I showed this to any like professors or anything. I just liked it. I don't know what the story was about. It was something about this medallion, and there was like some magic powers, you know, that this kid was able to, you know, get a hold of. It's funny because I'm still actually working on a project similar to this, and but it's much more advanced, much better story. It's much more figured out. But the groundwork for this is still like it had a deep impression, and you know, 6 years later, I'm still kind of building this project up on the side. Um, and you know, if I were to figure this out now, sorry, my fan is on. Let's see if I can kind of separate myself. Um, if I were to do this again, I would probably fix that perspective. That's a big thing. And also, you hear me talk about foreground, middle ground, and background with you guys when I create my work, or when you guys are creating your work. And that's something I wish I would have applied here. It's kind of just, and honestly, there probably could be a foreground, middle ground, and background if I had pushed the foreground pillar more, pushed the other one back a little further, and the trees could have been the background. But um, you know, that's all I could really do. The composition, actually, for what it's worth, is not terrible, but I just wish it wasn't a square. I think it was a square simply because it was either in my little sketchbook or it was on a sheet of paper, like copy paper, and I don't remember. I know I still have it with me, but it's at my mom's house in a different state, so I really don't remember. But I remember being really happy with this one. I did this in a what was this? It was some sort of sociology class. That's all I remember. Um, yeah, this one was the doodle from my math class, I think. I don't know what was going on. I remember the bottom left, I was thinking of Tupac. I was listening deep, like really to a lot of Tupac at the time. And he's known for just kind of posing without a shirt and wearing baggy jeans. And so I wanted to do that. Yeah, I did it all from my head. And then on the fist, I don't know what it was. I don't know what the protoplasm thing around him is either. I thought it was cool, but it was just one of those sketchbook pages. It was just like, here, let's put it in. It's different than everything else I've got. And if I were to go back, I wish I had more of a focus, more of an idea behind it. But that's the other thing, guys. Like, If you are creating a portfolio and you're worried about all this stuff, sometimes just put in one of your favorite pieces, because sometimes just the passion that you put in it will show through. And I think that's probably where some of these excelled, was because I just liked these things and I didn't even have a reason for it. I was 17, 18. I didn't know anything, and so I was just doing stuff. And I guess it seemed to work out. And for those who want to know, these portfolios were accepted to RISD, Academy of Art, Parsons. I can't remember if I got into Pratt. I don't remember actually. And SVA and SCAD, I think. So yeah, that I know. Oh, and in the Art Institute in Chicago, or the it's SAIC. I can't remember what it stands for, like School of the Art Institute, the Arts of Chicago, something like that. So those are the schools that I know I got into. I only applied to art schools, excluding one other school. My mom was like, Jordan, just in case this art thing doesn't work out, can you do one regular school? And so I applied there and I didn't get in. Now I was kind of okay with that, actually. And so yeah. But some other things that I did include, I actually put in an animated short that I did. It was about a minute long. It was called Enter the Dragon. It's actually based off of a college essay I wrote. And it was basically about me and my imagination as a kid, because when I was younger, I had a teacher who said that I was a good student, but I would often go to space camp, which was her way of saying that I would daydream a lot and not focus, because I was a creative kid. It was hard to get me to settle down, and so I created something based off of that. And since I couldn't put a clip or like a still in it for you, what I'll do is I'll link that in the description. I know where the video is, very easy for me to find. I'll just put it in the description, so if you guys ever want to watch it, you can. It's not the most professional thing in the world, but it was a milestone for me when I was 18. Oh wait, maybe I didn't put this one in my portfolio, actually. You know what? That one I didn't put in my portfolio because I finished it afterwards, but it was still a milestone for me, and I put another one in its place. So what I'll do is I'll link both of the animated shorts that I did in the description. One is shorter. The shorter one is the one I used to apply to college. The longer one is something I did as another project. The other one that I have asked about was my MJ painting of Michael Jackson. In the 10th grade, I was 16 years old, and I was a huge Michael Jackson fan growing up. A lot of my family and friends are. And I did a painting of him when he was a kid, part of the Jackson 5, and I was so proud of the painting. It was actually, to that point, the best painting I'd ever done. And because I don't paint that much in general, like, it's probably still like up there in the top 2 or 3 paintings that I've ever done. And I couldn't put it in my portfolio, and I was so upset. And the reason was because it was clearly taken from a photo reference that I did not take, because it was of a famous person, probably literally one of the most famous people in the world, and it's a picture of him that was clearly from 1970 or 1971 or something, because he's a little kid. And by the time I was born, Michael Jackson was in his mid-30s, and so it was not an option for me to put it in, even though it was a really good piece. I also had a Muhammad Ali drawing that I did that I couldn't put in my portfolio either, for the exact same reasons. And so I'll find that. I'll try and find a way to link it in the description, or maybe we'll post it on Instagram or something. I'll figure something out. But yeah, that's the reason why I couldn't put it in my portfolio, and why I didn't use it to apply to colleges. And again, I was very upset. To this day, I'm still kind of bummed about it, because I liked it a lot. Matter of fact, my family, those of you who are artists in the family who aren't really artists, you kind of know what I'm dealing with. My family loves it so much, even though I'm kind of past it now. It's like, oh, okay, it's cool. It's an 8-year-old painting. I'm like, but my family will literally fight over it. Like, they'll start talking about, like, I want this buried with me when I die type stuff. Like, it's on that level. It's not even that fantastic, but it's just, that's just how they see it. So yeah, guys, that was my entire portfolio that I used to get into art school. And like I said, I used it to apply to multiple schools. There were some other pieces that were that some specific schools wanted. Like when I applied to RISD, they wanted the famous bike drawing. I don't know if they still do it anymore, but they wanted that, and so that was also part of my portfolio. But it's not in here. This was more general. Some other schools asked me for like another small series that I don't even know where those files are or where those drawings are anymore. So I didn't put them in here. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I mean, I always get on you guys for some of your work, so hopefully it was fun looking through some of my old stuff and going like, huh, there was a time he wasn't that good. Well, you know, or maybe you're thinking the opposite and maybe you think this work is flawless, in which case, thank you, but I've grown. I've grown since then. So I want to talk to you guys about this really quickly. If you want to purchase a portfolio critique or Skype, you can do that here. It is for a fee, but yeah, if it's something that interests you, we can definitely help you out, and hopefully you'll be able to apply some of the tips we give you on your own artwork and create really cool stuff. The other thing I also want to say is thank you to our top Patreon supporters. We have Johnny Mack, Lahana Rampton, Ross Hines, Tammy Dreiger, and Sally Webster. So all of you guys are super awesome for continuing to show your support for Art Prof. We as a team really deeply appreciate, and I speak for everybody, I believe, when I say that. So thank you. And if you guys who are watching on the stream, either now or later, want to be awesome just like these wonderful people, you can also be a supporter on Patreon, and you can, there's the link in the description, and you can do a one-time donation or you can do it monthly, whatever you can to support and help out. We deeply appreciate it. So yeah, like I said, I'll post some of the links in my artwork in the description. So if you want to see the animations, you can. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll be streaming tomorrow, so I'll see you guys then.